Hey, how you doing? This is, whatever we're gonna call it.
Should I be focusing more on the comic? Like, I kind of zoomed in a little bit on the comic and I'm not seeing your face. Is that how you were doing it with me?
Yeah.
Okay. Just making sure. I'm trying to keep it the same. Could you, like, tilt it a little bit more that way?
You're not getting the TV, are you?
No. Grassy ass.
I'm Manny Ortiz, and I'm the guy who's usually the cameraman. I was there for the other 2 episodes or whatever. Behind the camera today is Jameson McCave.
Hi, how are you? I'm actually Manny. I'm a clone.
And,
Jameson's dead.
Jameson's not a really big fan of manga, like I am. So, we figure we'll broaden our audience or whatever.
And our horizons, our minds, our perspectives.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll convince me to like manga.
Yeah, maybe not. We'll see. He's pretty stubborn, maybe not. So, I'm gonna do the manga part of this thing. Today I'm gonna review BAKUMAN somewhat. Volume 1. This is the second project, I believe, between Sugumi Oba and Takeshi Obata, which is basically their first big collaboration was Death Note, which got some awards and was pretty popular and all that. It was pretty good. And Bakuman is basically about this story about a teenager who wants to become a manga artist, but it's like what it explores is like the I guess the negative aspects of being a manga artist and how it's more like a gamble. It's not a job that's as easy to accomplish as it is over here in America with American comic books. A lot of comic book companies over there in Japan make it a lot harder for people to become published, serialized, and for it to continue or whatever.
And that's saying something because it's hard to break into the industry over here as it is.
Yeah, they're really anal about like a lot of things. Yeah. Anyway, so let's just go on it. So this is all just the introductory stuff with, I mean, well, not introductory stuff, but credits kind of. And this is where we open up. Alright, Moritaka's uncle basically praises him for an award for his art, to which he's like, he basically just like pushes it over or whatever. This guy, he basically has a lot of talent when it comes to drawing. He won an award for it. His uncle is a manga artist. He says over here, I guess you're going to become a painter or a designer when you grow up. My uncle never said manga artist. Now there's a reason for that. I'll just get to it now. Basically, his uncle is a manga artist. It's a struggle. His uncle is basically not even that good at art, period. And it's like he doesn't want him to. The way I took it is that he doesn't want him to go through that struggle or whatever, so he wants him to aim for a different career. Like, it's basically he believes he should use his talent, but not the way he's been using it, basically, is what I take it to mean. So here's him a few years later. He's 14 years old, and he basically is just a normal 14-year-old. He does not want to go into the manga artist lifestyle and whatnot. Just going about his daily day. And he's basically here. Alright, so here's something I noticed. This is, you see, in these first few panels, they explain basically not just the character of Moritaka, but they explain what the average Japanese male student around this time is like. He says, I don't want to cause any more problems for my parents. I don't want to be called a shut-in. That's why I go to school, even though it's so much easier to stay at home and sit in front of a computer or play video games. I don't want to be called a freeloader in the future, so I'll become a white-collar worker even though I don't want to. You see, here's the thing. A lot of Japanese these days, especially students going into the work industry, don't aspire for anything greater. They don't wish to leave Japan. They don't wish to do anything other than just live their lives, and their lives would be very basic. they don't aspire for grandiose dreams, and it's like it's very depressing. And it personally hurts my heart. The people who make it to the top in society are the guys who get good grades right now. We're already separated into ranks. So it'll just be an extension of where we are now. What a boring future, it's such a pain to live, and that's my view of life, being a good kid and going with the flow for 14 years. And that's the way I basically see how the normal Japanese student, or some people in general in some ways, think about life or whatever. Again, more so in Japan, because like over here you still have people that like still aspire to do stuff or whatever, and you have people around you that are going to tell you, hey, go for that dream. In Japan, for some reason, it's like it's very odd to, I mean, I haven't personally been to Japan, so I could be completely wrong.
You could be completely lying.
I could be lying, but I'm not lying. I've done a bit of research into the topic, and this is like part of like a few problems that's going on with Japan right now. Japan has like a lot of suicide rates or whatever, especially among kids of this generation of kids who are like in high school or whatever, because they don't see anything past what they already have and all that. Yeah.
So this is presenting a lot of mature themes and food for thought.
Yeah.
Ho ho, who's that?
Obviously, this is the love interest. It's just a random girl.
I mean, she gets a whole page dedicated to her. That's how you can tell.
Alright, so he also looks at love in a very mature way. He says over here, he's drawing her, by the way, something that I frequently do with the girls that I'm interested in. Check my Instagram for that. Love is just painful and agonizing. Unrequited love plunges my life into an even deeper darkness. Another shot of the drawing of the girl.
I like their word sound effect choice. Dong.
I believe this one is like the school alarm. They say change over to, like, you know, we got the they got the dong 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 dong.
It just amused me that the word dong popped up right after we saw the hot girl. I'm sorry.
He's not getting an erection.
Imagine that was the sound effect for it.
Dong.
Sorry, I don't mean to be interjecting into your segment too much.
You're fine. And he's, I can't believe we're already third years, juniors. I don't want to think about the high school entrance exams. Or wait. I don't know. No, they're in junior high. They're. So he's in 8th grade, basically. Sorry. My fault. He's, I don't want to think about the high school entrance exams.
Doesn't focus on you. There we go.
I just want to play video games. Yeah, I don't know if you know what a hikikomori is.
No. And I don't know how many of our 10 viewers out there.
Or, so, a hikikomori, for example, is like someone who's basically like, in their house all the time. They're watching like TV. They're not currently in education or in the work field.
Never ever taught.
And they're not someone who's really who's like really interested in that type of stuff. Alright, so right here he's just talking to his friends, sees his mom, he's going through the
Ooh, I see his mom too. I'm just kidding.
going through the everyday motions or whatever. He's looking at his drawing again, listening to music, comes into school, and then there's Akito Takagi. Now this guy is important because he's the second protagonist.
Thanks, camera, for blurring as I tried to make it a more detailed shot.
Now if you look over
Was this happening to you?
Yes, it was.
Dang.
So over here he tries to like, he shows him his notebook that he has, and he references their other series, Death Note, as if it's a popular thing in this series, which it probably is, since this is supposed to be similar to everyday life. It's not very important.
So, as far as like compositionally, I can see that we can tell that this guy is supposed to be important because there's nothing else in the room of note but him.
Yeah. And right here, from here, you see the perspective shot. Everything is focused, at least in his general vicinity or whatever.
Right.
Everything is bending to him, almost.
Wow, like, considering the level of detail in these drawings, he's a great artist because that looks like what is considered, like, real.
Oh yeah.
You ever think about that? Like,
they're considering it like real life or whatever.
yeah, because that level of drawing in his sketch right there is the same level of drawing skill that went into drawing him himself.
Yeah. Oh, you mean this? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so
I thought about that before, too.
He must be, like, the best artist there is.
He says you're really good at drawing, for one thing, so probably. It always freaks me out when you see, like, an anime or manga and, like, the character draws and it's, like realistic, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, what the hell? Like, that must be, like uber realistic, then. Okay, so, alright, so here's the thing.
Oh,
he points out...
Sorry, I got Beethoven in there a little bit.
You're fine.
He's kind of just creeping up on me.
So he points out the fact that he's really good at drawing, which we just talked about. Now this is important as well. He notes that he has a crush on this girl, and then over here he says she probably has a crush on you, giving him some hope. I said,
That's what hope looks like.
then he's been saying several times here that I sit in the very back. I told you already where. He means like basically. He, like, witnesses everything that goes on in the room. He could see all the, like, people talking on or whatever, texting, probably. He could see a whole bunch of stuff. He knows what you're doing, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, like, you know, that's pretty normal for someone who's, like, sitting in the back of a class. You get to see everything, sitting in the back of a room, regardless of whatever situation you're in. You're sitting in the back of a room, you see every single thing that's going on. So he sees, he notices the fact that he has a crush on her, or whatever. This is something that I can relate to, because I like to sit in the back.
And it's also giving you important information through the dialogue without beating you over the head with it.
Yeah. So, alright, so here he's giving him back the notebook that, what's his name? Mashiro Moritaka Mashiro, basically left, or whatever. And the only condition that he has is, I want you to team up with me to create manga. Now this I thought was very funny, because this kind of reminds me of the dual artist and writer relationship or whatever. It's funny, because when you look at anime and manga, it's not very common for people to collaborate like this. What they'll do is, like, they'll have assistants, and the assistants may do touch-ups, they may do lettering, they may do stuff like that. But the assistants, like, mostly never take on, like, such a big role like this. Like, it's usually, from what I've seen someone piece it together before, they said that manga artist, which also includes the writing part of it, because I'm just using manga artist as like or mangaka lumps them in even more. Mangaka take the weekends off and they write, and then during the week they draw. So they write out the plot and all that, and then they draw the entire within a week, and then they'll have a volume. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure that's the system that they work with. And so it's very, they usually work on stuff by themselves, is what I'm trying to say, the majority of what they do. And that's something that's uncommon, but these guys have obviously done it. We're doing something like that, which is funny, but it's like, it's not uncommon for us as Americans.
And to clarify, he was pointing to me, not you.
Yeah, I'm not working with you guys.
No, we don't like you. Just kidding.
So here she says, I want you to team up with me to create manga. Now this is very important, because you see it takes up most of the space. There's only like the two other panels focus on him and then the other guy, and they both have their own side of the page. See what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah, so one thing about this is that this is the entire series is about. If you notice, even the sides of, I don't know if you can see that, it's all in blue, are of the measurements of deleter paper. Now, deleter manga paper is something that you can buy off the internet, and it already has all these little measurements out, and it's pretty good or whatever if you want to make this type of stuff out. I love this thing because it's like basically a step-by-step instructional guide to you wanting to do this stuff. So he basically is going against the social norm, because he says, I've always loved manga, and my dream is to become a manga writer. I've given it a lot of thought, and I've decided you're the one I need your drawing skills. You're the one I need your drawing skills. Sorry. I made it sound like a run-on sentence. This guy has top grades nationwide, and he wants to become a manga writer. It's his dream. He has got to be kidding. The thing is that he wanted to do a similar dream. He wanted to become a manga artist. It's something that he didn't really point out in the beginning, but the fact that he said that his uncle never said manga artist, that out of all things is something that made him basically think about it. Alright, so they're basically going to collaborate on a manga, and that's what the whole series is. This is actually very important and very personal to me because I see these characters, they're very contrasting, and it's obvious by the way that they are displayed. He obviously has a lot of sharper lines, more detail in his hair and all that. Everything for him is very light, and that his emotions are very flamboyant. While he's more reserved, he is obviously he's got darker tones, darker colors, or whatever. It's just it displays the contrast in their characters. And this, like I said, was personal to me because, for me, I'm very grandiose and very flamboyant sometimes.
It's a lie.
And this is how I think. Akira Takagi is basically my brain. He's the way I like to think, and this is this other guy, Masahiro. He's basically how I appear on the outside, in some ways. When I go to school or whatever, I try to keep to myself. I don't try to stand out too much. I try to just live day by day or whatever. And at some point in my life, I didn't even consider doing comic book art, comic book anything or whatever. I didn't think about it. I basically just did it as a hobby, and I was expecting go into military or something like that. I forget some stupid shit. And yeah. So that's why I feel it's kind of personal to me. Which I feel it's kind of relatable to a lot of people in certain ways. Here he goes on a little thing about how manga is the pride of their Japanese culture, which it kind of is because manga is very popular worldwide, which he also brings up kind of. He's basically making fun of him by pointing out basically his skills and then saying interesting. And then he says he's not really interested. He says he refuses or whatever. This obviously does not demean him or anything like that because he obviously has another trick up his sleeve. There's a lot of dialogue here which sucks. This is when he. It doesn't suck. I mean, it just sucks for what this review or whatever.
Whoa. That was almost controversial.
He says, it's impossible to make it as a manga artist. The only people who truly do are geniuses born with that kind of talent. The others are nothing more than gamblers. And that's what I was talking about earlier. He says, a professional manga artist makes his living purely through drawing manga his whole life. Now this basically goes into the little nuances of making manga or whatever. It's a very hard job. It's something that okay, so here's an example. American comic book artists often have, or when they're working together, collaborators, they often have months to work on something. As where manga artists, mangaka have a week. They draw it, they ink it, and they do this chapter by chapter. I'm pretty sure it's that they come up with a volume a week. Or it could be a chapter a week, but I'm pretty sure it's a volume a week. I'm fairly sure that's a volume a week. So here he basically, again, explains some more stuff about manga artists and how they, how hard it is to become popular and all that junk or whatever. It's basically a bunch of back and forth here. And then he tells him here that his uncle was a mangaka. He made an anime called Superhero Legend or whatever. And this guy was actually a fan of that, which is pretty cool. Some more back and forth. He's basically, what's going on here is that Akira was basically telling Moritaka that, Moritaka, I haven't read this in a while. He's basically telling Moritaka his plan, and he basically is set on the idea that this isn't going to work because he saw how much struggle his uncle went through it or whatever. Which is something I probably shouldn't have told you, which happens later on.
Oh, it's fine.
And then, basically, he challenges him. Again, we have the perspective focus on him and focus on what he's talking about. And he says, that's all you want out of life? He says, so you're gonna end up you're gonna end up becoming a dull businessman. That's all you want out of life. And this is basically again referencing Japanese citizens of like this era or whatever. They don't want to do anything out of the ordinary. They don't want to stick out too much. They don't want to overachieve. They want to stay quiet. They want to live their life peacefully how they want it. And it's like that's basically just like my outlook on things.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
Was this story considered a little bit controversial at the time? When it came out, or just kind of in general, where it's kind of deconstructing the societal implications of the positions that these artists have?
I mean, I imagine it would be, but it's not the first time that it's been done before. The man who worked on Yu Yu Hakusho and Hunter x Hunter also pointed out some of these problems. I'm not sure if it was controversial, and I cannot confirm that, but I know that manga artists who have pointed stuff like this out have gotten a lot of crap from the industry, like Shueisha, who is the publisher of this manga, which you can also see shamelessly name dropped right here in the very front. They've given Taite Kubo of the Bleach series like a lot of crap because he wanted to do stuff that they didn't want him to do, and so he basically, by the end of Bleach, the series basically like died or whatever. He just didn't have the same passion for it because they basically have been killing him. And the guy who worked on Yu Yu Hakusho and Hunter x Hunter takes a lot of hiatuses because he's having a lot of mental and physical issues because of how much he works. He doesn't get much time to sleep. He gets about 3 to 5 hours, and he doesn't have much time for family, which is something. Masashi Kishimoto, the guy who worked on Naruto, which is very popular, got married a little bit before he did Naruto, and then after Naruto came out, he basically was just working the entire time. He just now, after he finished the series, had his honeymoon, which you're supposed to have, I believe, at the weekend of your wedding?
I think so, yeah.
Something like that. So you see how much time he didn't have. This is 10 years.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And you're making me look bad. You dropping all this knowledge, I just, like, critiqued the thing, and you're just like, look at how much I know about manga.
No. I'm not trying to do that. It's just that it's something I'm very passionate about, or whatever. It's something. It's mainly what made me consider not working in Japan, which was very painful because I really love Japan.
Beethoven understands your passion.
So here he starts to think about it.
I hope it's Beethoven. I hope I'm not confusing him with. It's definitely Beethoven.
Who cares? He's dead. Alright, so here he's like...
I hope it's not Mozart. That would be embarrassing.
So here he says something about studying, but he's really thinking about the manga artist thing. You see the black panel, which is very cool, and Jameson pointed this out earlier for me, that they did this black panels to show that this is basically like a, flashback? Yeah, that's the word. And he's talking to his uncle. So basically, he asks him why does he want to become a gambler. Notice he said it doesn't say manga artist. He says, I want to be popular with the girls. Manga artists are popular with the girls? I don't know, I guess I must have thought that I get girls if I become rich and famous. Don't tell anybody, okay? He looks weird with that smirk on his face, which is like really creepy. You get that?
I'll see that in my nightmares.
Here's the thing. He then references one girl in particular. He said there was this girl I had a crush on when I was in middle school. And he starts talking about the girl. So here's the thing. He wasn't trying to become popular with the girls. He was trying to become popular with this crush he had. They started writing letters to each other, and they went to separate high schools, and at some point they started seeing each other less, just writing letters to each other. and he says like, "How you doing?" and "Good luck," and that sort of thing and all that. And
man, I never got letters from any of my middle school crushes.
That'd be awesome, wouldn't it?
Even if it was just like, "Hey, how you doing?"
Even he says right now, no one would ever do something like that these days.
I think maybe he just kind of didn't pull the trigger on that.
Just a weirdo.
Finally, we find something to critique. This guy's freaking love life.
Yeah, it's actually pretty depressing when you go into it.
I don't know. It seems like I don't know. Like he's getting letters back and forth from the girl.
So
I think maybe there's something deeper to this. Perhaps she's a hooker.
She might be, but she.
Oh no! Sorry, that's another tangent. I keep going.
You're fine.
I keep turning this into comedy. This is serious business.
So he says, anyway, we both graduated from high school, and she entered into a top-notch company. Sorry, Jameson, she's not a hooker. and I get into a third-rate college. But that's kind of funny. She didn't
At least you got into college.
Yeah, that's funny to me. She went into a company right away. She didn't even go to college. He went to college, and look where he's at.
Yeah, like he looks like Mr. Lawrence, the guy who does Plankton. I went to college.
He basically starts to get the idea that he could be a novelist or a manga artist. He doesn't really have a clear idea. He didn't have money and whatever, so he's basically in our situation to where he like wants to do something, but he doesn't know what yet. But well, we know what we want to do. Shut up, Manny. Anyway, he wanted to do something that would get her to notice him. If I do this, this girl will think about me or something like that. If I like wear this shirt or something like that, I'm gonna appear. She's gonna see me throughout the room or something like that. You know what I mean? Basically, like, he's focusing on, like, what he can do to get this girl's attention. He says, I seriously wanted to marry her back then, but I never knew no matter how hard I worked, I'd probably just end up as a cog in some small, mediocre company. And he kind of agrees with him, but you can see, like, the hesitation in his face or whatever. He's basically doing this whole thing for love, if you want to gloss over this whole thing or whatever.
That's weird. Like, not a love for the craft, but a love for a person. I just made the camera wiggle all over the place. I'm sorry. Have you ever gotten motion sick while reading a comic? You will now!
So here, he talks about how the gap gets between them even wider. He says, I was just a rookie manga artist doing a monthly magazine series. I could get axed at any time.
Wait, so is he having a flashback within a flashback?
Yes. Well,
how do you do
a flashback and his uncle's flashback?
He's seeing his uncle's flashback in his flashback.
So he said she had become the company's president's personal secretary. I was floored. Thing is that by the time I was 30, she married someone else. But superhero
should have wrote "I love you" on those letters.
They weren't really love letters. Like they were just like them.
Thanks for blurring, camera. I was trying to make a point.
His thing became an anime, which he was pretty proud of. But his thing is, he says, I guess you could say I lost my bet on love. She can't see my progress if I was an ordinary businessman, right? However, I've been able to come this far because she was around and I can continue drawing manga without giving up because I still believe that she's watching me. So it's like you really see how much he loved this girl that he was willing to go to like great lengths for her. And it's depressing because like a lot of us can relate to that. We've often went to great lengths, especially me, to impress a girl and in the end only to be let down. But then as a result he had an anime or whatever. As a result, I'm sure that we've all accomplished a little bit or whatever. This part ends with him telling him about that, and he says, even as a 4th grader, I understood what my uncle was going through. But 2 years after that conversation, my uncle died. It happened during my last year of elementary school. My parents told me he died from overworking, but I think it was suicide. That's more like a lot like my uncle, since he always said that life was a gamble. It was always about winning or losing. For me, the thought of becoming a manga artist disappeared the moment my uncle died. The series he created after the anime didn't sell at all, and even though he worked on the 2 manga series in 7 years, both of them were scrapped after a short while after he passed. after he passed away, we found out he was in deep debt too. Now, we're not going to go into this last thing because then that would transition. I just want to end it here. Thing is that during the 80s, after the end of the bubble era of Japan, which is basically time where everyone wanted Japanese products, after the end of that, people became really poor. So a lot of them went into debt and all that, and that's something that they cover in a manga series called Kaiju, whatever. Kai something that create the Ultimate Survivor. Look that up on your own time or whatever. You'll figure it out. It's basically like after the bubble era of Japan, a lot of people went into debt, and so it was an uncommon thing for people to be in like massive amount of debt and kill themselves. I believe that Japan has the most suicide rates per year. I believe. I'm not really sure, but this is part of the reason why they are so infamous with that. So you see, after all his dreams had been stepped on, basically, towards the end of his life, he kills himself. Which is very depressing when you think about it. Or just depressing. You don't even have to think about it. It's just depressing in general. Someone killed himself.
I don't know. I thought this was a nice bedtime story.
He'd fall asleep and he killed himself.
Well, we get this little cacophony of piano. Now I'm actually genuinely concerned that I might have mistaken... Like, I might have mixed up Beethoven and Mozart. Like, now I'm not sure. This face will haunt me in my dreams, along with that creepy smile from that other panel.
He's gonna be thinking about that all day. Alright, so we'll continue with the rest of this another day.
Yeah, manga is considerably longer than your average American comic.
Yeah. For this, I don't know how long this took me to read. I know the typical manga book takes me about an hour to read if I'm really interested in it. So, yeah. Bye.
Cheers.
When he... Now, this is kind of weird because this is how come he knows so much about it. I mean, this can just be an inference made by anybody. That's not something that's like, I see you have a lot of insight about this, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It seems like with a decent amount of research you can come up with the same conclusion. I've made similar conclusions or whatever.
That tells me that he didn't research this before wanting to get into it.
Oh wait. Or it could be, no, I'm sorry. So I was reading from a different person. I went from here to here. I'm supposed to go from here to here.
Whoops. You went American style, my friend.
And then I messed up. I just made a whole thing about it, sorry.